The Whispering Shadows, a tale that has haunted the minds of many, a story whispered among the trees and echoed in the corridors of forgotten places. It begins in a small, unassuming town, where the line between the living and the dead is thin, almost non-existent. "I can't believe I'm doing this," Jane muttered to herself, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and determination. She had always been curious, always drawn to the unknown, but this was different. The old mansion on the hill had a reputation, one that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest souls. Yet here she was, standing at its threshold, the heavy wooden door creaking open as if inviting her in. "Jane, Jane." The voice was faint, almost a whisper, but it was enough to make her heart race. She stepped inside, the air thick with the scent of decay and the weight of countless secrets. The hallway stretched out before her, dimly lit by the pale moonlight filtering through the cracked windows. Shadows danced on the walls, creating shapes that seemed almost alive. "Who's there?" Jane called out, her voice echoing through the empty halls. There was no response, only the sound of her own breathing and the distant creak of the old house settling. She took a step forward, her footsteps muffled by the thick layer of dust that covered the floor. The air grew colder and she could feel the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. "Jane, come closer." The voice was clearer now, more insistent. It seemed to be coming from deeper within the house, drawing her in. She hesitated for a moment, her instincts screaming at her to turn back, to leave this place and never return. But something compelled her to move forward, to uncover the truth that lay hidden within these walls. "Let go of me!" Jane cried out as she felt a cold hand grasp her arm. She spun around, but there was no one there. The grip tightened, and she struggled to break free, her heart pounding in her chest. Panic set in, and she could feel the walls closing in around her. She had to get out, had to escape this nightmare. "I need to get out of here," she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible over the sound of her own racing thoughts. She turned and ran, her footsteps echoing through the empty halls. The house seemed to come alive around her, the walls shifting and the shadows growing darker. She could hear the whispers growing louder, more insistent, as if the very house itself was trying to keep her trapped. "You can't leave, Jane. You're one of us now!" The voice was right behind her, cold and menacing. She could feel its breath on the back of her neck, sending chills down her spine. She stumbled and fell, her hands scraping against the rough wooden floor. She looked up, and there, standing before her, was a figure shrouded in darkness. Its eyes glowed with an eerie light, and its smile was twisted and cruel. "Jane," the figure whispered, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. "You belong here with us. Forever!" Jane's mind raced, her thoughts a jumbled mess of fear and confusion. She had to find a way out, had to escape this place before it consumed her. She scrambled to her feet and ran, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The house seemed to stretch on forever, the hallways twisting and turning, leading her deeper into the darkness. She could hear the whispers all around her, growing louder and more frantic. They seemed to be coming from the very walls themselves, urging her to give in, to accept her fate. But she couldn't. She wouldn't. She had to fight, had to find a way out. She burst through a door and found herself in a room filled with old, dusty furniture. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay, and the shadows seemed to move of their own accord. "Jane." The voice was closer now, almost right behind her. She turned and saw the figure standing in the doorway, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "You can't escape," it said, its voice dripping with malice. "You're one of us now." Jane backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. She had to find a way out, had to escape this nightmare. She spotted a window and ran towards it, her hands trembling as she fumbled with the latch. The window creaked open and she could feel the cool night air on her face. She climbed out, her heart racing with a mix of fear and relief. She was free. She had escaped. But as she looked back at the old mansion, she could see the figure standing in the window, its eyes glowing with an eerie light, and she knew, deep down, that she would never truly be free. The whispers would follow her, haunt her for the rest of her days. Credits, written by author's name.